Looks like we are now live. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Good, James. How's everything?
Good. So obviously we chat once a month to talk about the real estate market, to talk about loans, interest rates, and we are still in this unbelievably crazy time where, tell me if I'm wrong, but interest rates are still really low and the real estate market is still crazy. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, you are. Rates are still low. In fact, they're lower than when we spoke last month because they ticked up a little bit, but they're back to their lowest.
Ah,
And yeah, I don't see the market slowing down anytime soon. I talked to a client over the weekend. They submitted an offer 25K over list, waived their appraisal contingency, and they still got beat out by like another. I think he said there was eight other offers total, but he still got beat out even with those extra
yeah.
offer over list and removing contingencies. It's just insane right now.
We are struggling to find people that want to sell their house. Everyone, we've got listing contracts with people, and they're like, no, we're not ready to quite sell yet. Why? Most of the time, it's because they're like, we can't see anything that we like to buy, so we're not going to sell yet. So everyone is just sitting and waiting. And then we've got loads of buyers wanting to buy, but we're going out and showing them homes. And then, yeah, as you say, you find them that amazing house. But the problem is that's a needle in a haystack finding them the great house because there's no inventory. But if you think it's an amazing house, so does everybody else.
Yeah, seriously.
And I mean, I was lucky enough to get, we got one of my friends into escrow. Unfortunately, they pulled out of it, and I got them into escrow way lower than any of the other offers. And in the end, they didn't even need an appraisal because I can't believe it happened. The lender actually came back and said, "You've got this house at such a cheap deal, we don't even need to do an appraisal." Unfortunately, my clients, for personal reasons, had to pull out of the house. But I just want to, let people know there's still opportunities out there, even in this crazy market. I got an amazing price for that house, but one of the things you've got to do is you've got to have an agent who's very good at communication on both sides. So we got that great deal because I built up a relationship with the agent on the other side. And if you just write offers, it's going to be very, very hard for you to get a deal. You've got to really sell your client. And then you've also got to use a lender, in my opinion, who's going to help that with that. Have a lender who will actually call up the real estate agent and say, just to let you know, this guy or girl or couple, squeaky clean, they've got a great credit score, they're not contingent, I really vouch for them, they're great people. Things like that are really going to help you get the deal closed and get you into escrow, and get that offer accepted. So it's one of those, yes, we're in a crazy market, but there's still opportunities out there. And if you're thinking about moving, then please do speak to us. I can help you on the buy and sell side. Alex can help you on the loan side. So interest rates. Before, when we spoke 3 months ago, they were around the 2.75 for your, conventional loan, 20% down,
Yep.
500K, good credit score, etc. What can you get now? Because it jumped up to 2.85, you said last month.
Yeah, it jumped about 2.875, maybe 3%, just depending on the day. But we're back to those lows that you just mentioned. In fact, I looked at 5% down on a conventional 740 credit, looking at a single family home, and we had options at 2.75. There's even one at 2.74, which really has no difference in the payment or anything like that. Just looks fancy.
Yeah.
So I would say we're back to our lows. VA back to 2.25. Last time we spoke, we're at 2.5. Conventional high balance, so loans above 510,000, we're still at 2.99. I think last time we spoke, we're at 3.125. And then jumbos, I've got options down at 2.875. If you're putting down 25% and you've got good credit, last time we spoke, that was about 3%, 3.125. So things have improved anywhere from about an eighth to a quarter, depending on the program, in the last 30 days.
I mean, in 4, 5, 6 months ago, we were having conversations and you couldn't get a house on a jumbo loan, and you couldn't buy a house for, over 800, $900 million unless you had decent, really good money down. I've noticed that these homes are still doing really well in selling. So what are the options for someone who is trying to buy that $1.2 million house and they've only got like 10% down? Are there good options out there for them now?
We're seeing more and more. So a while, we'll go back to our conversation 4, 5, 6 months ago. If you didn't have 20% down, typically what we could do is put 10% down and take a second lien for 10%. Even that second lien option, they all went away at the beginning of COVID. Well, they've come back. Not all of them, but most of them have come back. And then we also now are rolling out a call on Friday for the whole company, and they were talking about this different hedge fund that they, struck a deal with to do the 10% down jumbo, true jumbo with no mortgage insurance. And to me, that just says the guidelines, the programs, everything is just moving back in the right direction again, and things are starting to normalize. I know as far as the world goes, it may not be there, but as far as the financial world, things are starting to normalize. I wouldn't say we're anywhere close to being back to normal though.
One of the things that people always ask me is, do you think the election will make a big difference? Just by interest, you probably know more than me and study this a bit more. Is there any, whispers in regards to if one side gets in and the other doesn't get in, if that's going to make any difference? Or are all the experts in your field expecting interest rates to stay low for the foreseeable future?
The experts are saying that rates will stay low. There's some chatter about if one president or one person gets elected, they'll go lower, or they'll just kind of stay low. And then there's chatter that if the other person gets in, that we'll still have low rates, but they might start to creep up a little bit more. I think it's really a matter of how the markets respond to the results, obviously, and then how does the new or the existing president, how are they going to come out of the gate in the first 100 days, essentially? Like, what are they going to be doing? What is their focus going to be on? Is it going to be on pandemic cleanup? Is it going to be on getting small businesses back and running, which are two different conversations altogether? And I know where I stand on it as far as the small business stuff goes, and I think it's similar to you, but it's not even a matter of who gets elected. It is a little bit, but what do they initiate right after their election?
Yeah, that's true. The truth is Mickey Mouse could get elected, and he could say he's going to do this and then come into power and do something completely different.
Exactly.
So we have no idea what they're actually going to do until they actually stay in power or get into power. But the funny thing is I was convinced that house prices were going to drop back in April, May, June.
Yeah, we have the recordings to show it.
Yeah. I'm still convinced at some point they're going to drop. At some point they have to. I just cannot tell you what month or what year now.
I really think it comes back to economics, simple economics, looking at supply and demand. And right now we have a ton of demand and no supply. I mean, that's just going to drive prices up in any type of market, whether it's real estate or manufacturing. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever. That's economics.
I get updates on certain areas notice of defaults. So these are people who aren't paying their loan. And whilst there is people on that list that I get sent, it hasn't dramatically increased.
No, I get a recurring newsletter. I think it's weekly, and updates on forbearance numbers, and they're going down. The forbearance claims on forbearance are going down, which means you're less likely to see foreclosures and short sales happening.
Yeah. So if that was going up dramatically, then you would be like, okay, there's going to be a massive shift in the market because more homes are going to come to the market because everyone is not being able to pay their loan. But it looks like most people are finding a way to pay their loan at the moment.
Yeah.
So as it stands right now, I put it this way, I'll be absolutely shocked if house prices suddenly go down in the next couple of months. It looks like that we are going to have it where they stay where they are right now. At some point, maybe it will start leveling out. It's how people get more comfortable. I think it's going to be linked to COVID in the election.
I think so too.
I think people are going to start to feel, the reason why people move home is because of schools. Schools are closed right now. So people aren't moving house because of school. As things go on, people might start moving houses. Certain school areas don't open and some do. it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing that. But normally you move because your 5-year-old starting school and you need to get into that good school district. That went out of the window this year. So maybe next spring, as things, there might be a vaccine or whatever it is to make people feel comfortable with this, people will then start moving. So that will make a difference on the market. And jobs. Normally, people are moving all around the country, taking new jobs, and everything's changing. And right now, everyone's working from home. They're not going out and getting a new job right now. If you've got a job, you're staying in it.
Yep.
So as we see what happens with COVID over this winter and the election, and there's so many things that are going to go into this, at some point things are going to change, but it just doesn't look like there's going to be this crash that so many people thought was going to happen, including myself. At some point, the market will change. It will probably be because interest rates rise at some point, and it will normalize the market. And then at some point, there has to be some kind of dip. There always is at some point. But yeah, none of us have got a crystal ball. So everyone always keeps asking me what's going to happen. And at some point, I still believe interest rates will rise because historically it's impossible for them to stay low forever.
Everything's in cycles. I think you're absolutely right. We're going to see house prices start to come down. It could take another 6 months or a year, but at some point, the sellers aren't going to be so nervous to put their home on the market. I still think there's a ton of sellers just sitting and waiting to see what happens, or maybe they're not comfortable to move yet because of, like you said, schools or jobs or because of the pandemic. So as soon as we start seeing more sellers enter the market, it's going to change everything. And yeah, I think another.
And then if interest rates rise slightly, you're going to have less buyers.
You have less buyers, and then you'll see homes sit on the market for longer, which creates a little bit more inventory as things start to sit. If that's where we're going to start to see things normalize, whatever that means. But in the meantime, take advantage of the low rates. Like anyone listening, take advantage of it while you can. Whether it's refinancing or buying, obviously we're explaining to you how hard it is to find anything, but get approved now. Get ready for when that opportunity comes, because
if you're looking at buying and selling, right? Say you've got $1 million house and you're thinking of selling it and buying it and you're going to get a loan. Yeah, if you wait, there might be more homes in the market, etc. But your house is going to be possibly worth less. So if you're buying $1 million house and you're going to be selling $1 million house, if they both drop, you'll actually, believe it or not, be in a worse position, because more than likely the interest rate will be up. So when you actually work it out, you're better buying now and selling now. So everyone's situation is different. If you really want to get $1 million house and you can't afford $1 million house, you can only afford a 900 to 950 house. And then maybe wait 6-12 months and wait until that possibly drops to that price, and then you can afford to buy it. But at the same time, just to let you know, your monthly price may then have gone up because the interest rates may rise. So there unfortunately isn't going to be there isn't a perfect scenario for 99% of the people. Whatever way you're going to win on one hand, you're going to lose on the other.
Give and take, right?
Yeah.
I think, but like I tell people all the time, bottom line is if you're renting right now, stop. Like just buy a house. Is it over? I can show you tons of different charts, including taking into account the big crash we had in 07, 08. Your home's always going to continue to appreciate in this market, even if it means having to wait 3 or 4 more years to get back to that highest level. But
what would be the very worst case scenario that someone has ever had buying their house in 2006 when it was at the height of the market? If they had to sell within 2 or 3 years, then they were in a lot of trouble. But if that person would have actually stayed with that house this whole time, they would have actually made money on it.
Oh, totally. And they've now built up a ton of equity instead of putting money into some rental, and that's basically lighting your money on fire, and it's not going to anything. So whenever I have this conversation with people, it's like, if you're renting, just look to buy, because even if the market does dip, all that money you're putting into the house, it's going towards something. You're building up some equity that you can tap into at some point. But historically, if you just be patient enough, your home's going to be in a better position value-wise than it was when you bought it. And that's historical data.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining me. And let's see what this interesting winter's got ahead of us. And I'll chat to you in November, probably just before the elections, and then we can enjoy some more presidential debates before then, and that'll be interesting to watch. But
get your popcorn ready.
Right, have a good one, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, James, you too. Talk soon.
Take care.